Variable cloudiness this evening with a small chance for a shower.
July 2nd, 1992.
A terrible secret that haunted a New England town for 30 years.
He threw me on the floor of the sacristy and raped me.
I remember being molested and or raped by him in his office in the rectory.
A priest who molested not just one child, but possibly hundreds.
He molested or raped every kid he could get his hands on.
Now those children are grown up and tracking him down, led by a man who says he's going to see justice done.
When do you stop molesting children? When do you stop?
Tonight, we take you there as the children of St. Mary's School 30 years later take on that priest and the church that did nothing to stop him.
Mr. Porter, may I speak with you?
Get the cops.
Mr. Porter.
It's been called the rip-off of the century. Today, you can still purchase federal land for the 1872 price of $2.50 an acre. Tonight, a primetime investigation. How taxpayers are being taken by people who know how to buy valuable land at turn-of-the-century prices. And how Congress is dragging its feet on putting a stop to it.
If you think you had a bad day at the office, how about the advertising executive who invested $20 million in this guy? Or about $3 million in him? Or who knows how much for a meat spokesperson who turns out to be a vegetarian? Tonight, who pays when you get burned in the high-risk world of celebrity advertising?
From ABC News, with anchors Diane Sawyer in New York, Sam Donaldson in Washington, Chief Correspondent Chris Wallace, Judd Rose, Jay Schadler, Sylvia Chase, and John Quinones. This is Prime Time.
It's not easy to pull yourself away, pull yourself away, pull yourself away from a bowl of Kellogg's Raisin Bran.
Flight 421, you're cleared for takeoff. Do you read?
Those 2 scoops of raisins taste so good, you'll find that once you start, you can't leave behind. It's those 2 scoops that taste too good. Pull yourself away. 2 scoops that taste too good, too good, too good. In Kellogg's Raisin Bran, 2 scoops.
Sears 4th of July paint sale means huge savings on lots of brands. Like Weather Beater exterior flat, only $12.99. Easy Living interior satin, just $13.99. But hurry, sale ends Saturday at Sears.
Hey, is Tegrin shampoo on sale?
Nope, that's their new lower price.
But it's still just as tough on dandruff, right?
Sure, Tegrin doesn't do less, just cost less.
Sounds right to me.
Tegrin, the right dandruff shampoo at the right price.
Prime Time. Now from New York, Diane Sawyer.
Good evening. Tonight we have the kind of story you really don't want to believe. And then you hear that it happened to your friends, neighbors, people just like you. In recent years, psychologists have recognized the phenomenon of suppressed memory, suppressed sometimes by children because of a trauma simply too awful to remember. In the story you're about to see, the reawakened memory of one man forced a community, a church, and now a nation to face what happened back in the days when everyone wanted to look away. Countless people came forward with their home movies to help us tell this story, saying it may be too late to intervene in the past, but it's not too late to keep this from happening again.
It became our secret for 30 years.
We were all ashamed. We were all ashamed.
I see an innocent child living with a secret that was about to destroy his life.
It was the whole town's terrible secret.
That town with a secret is North Attleboro, Massachusetts, population 25,000. It's still a 1950s kind of place, where you can leave your doors unlocked, chat over the backyard fence, and center family life around the Catholic Church. No wonder Frank Louis Fitzpatrick never really wanted to leave. He became an investigator for an insurance company and created a family life like the one he knew growing up.
I have a family, yep. my wife and I, and 2 kids, and a cat and fish.
Happy?
And, no, I wasn't happy, but I should have been, and that's what started to make me remember, was that I realized that something was wrong.
As Fitzpatrick tells it, a dark shadow kept flickering over his picture-perfect life.
Somebody I loved is doing something horrible to me was the first thing that came back to me. The pain in my brain said that.
A pain that under therapy kept drawing Fitzpatrick back 30 years to the innocent days of St. Mary's Grammar School. Back toward a young priest of great vitality and charm who became a kind of magnet for the children.
You know, I wanted to become a priest because I thought he was such a wonderful person.
He was Father James Porter, overseer of the altar boys, like Frank. He organized games for the children, and Fitzpatrick remembered even took them on trips.
He was supposed to be taking us to a game of some kind at Boston Garden. I remember being brought to this house. I looked out the window and I said, "Oh, where's Boston Garden?" And it wasn't in sight. I remember feeling strange.
At last, Frank Fitzpatrick had a memory that would unlock all the darkness in his life, of a day when a beloved priest would offer an unsuspecting little boy a strange-tasting piece of mincemeat pie.
Father Porter told me I should eat it too. You know, I was going to hurt his feelings if I didn't eat it, so I ate some more. And then, the next thing I knew, I woke up and Father Porter was laying on top of me, sodomizing me.
How old were you when it happened?
12.
It never occurred to you to tell anybody?
At that time, a priest was something that was so high above normal mortal human beings that it was not conceivable that we'd ever tell on a priest, because it was like, you know, how can you tell on God, you know?
You're 39 years old. These realizations come back to you. Was there a moment when you knew what you were going to do?
Yeah, right away. When I first started getting those feelings, I knew I had to do something to find out. Well, I'm a curious guy. I wanted to find out what happened to Porter.
So Frank Fitzpatrick, private investigator, set out on the trail of Father James Porter. First, he went to the diocese just to find out Porter's middle name. But the head of the diocese, Monsignor Oliveira, refused.
Monsignor Oliveira told me maybe it's best to leave it in the hands of the Lord, which had been done 30 years ago, and instead of the Lord's hands, it ended up in Father Porter's hands, and his hands were filthy.
So Fitzpatrick spent hours of his own time culling through documents, searching through old newspapers for any clue to Porter's whereabouts. He also placed a simple ad in the local paper, asking only, "Remember Father Porter?" Within days, a letter arrived. "Dear Frank," it said, what have you got?
I, for one, am very familiar with Father Porter and his antics, or should I say insanity. I, for one, have lost my faith and dignity because of this man.
Patty Shabbat Wilson, today a single mother who works with emotionally disturbed children, was the first to contact Fitzpatrick and tell him about a 10-year-old little girl at St. Mary's who was stalked repeatedly by Father Porter.
He locked the door at the rectory and would get me in there and have you sit on his lap, take your pants down. He'd have his tongue down your throat, his hands up your genitals. And I felt that there must be something wrong with me. You know, like I must be deformed to make someone want to come after me so much like this.
Did you tell anyone else?
I told my best friend, Judy. I said, Father Porter just did this to me. And she looked at me and she was stunned. She said, he did that to me, too.
I remember him pressing himself up against me.
His hands went up my legs, sweating and shaking.
Gasping and shaking. He shook.
One by one, the former children of St. Mary's decided to come forward.
He threw me on the floor and raped me.
Once or twice a week.
Kept telling me that God was watching.
It was as if a violent tremor shot through the community, dislodging old memories. And the memories made it clear that here at the little school called St. Mary's, there was no place a child could be safe from Father Porter. Not the playground, not the rectory, not the sacristy, not the altar.
In his office in the rectory, in the basement of the rectory, in the vestibule of the church.
In the corridors at school, in the schoolyard, at the town pool, at the playground, wherever we were.
So far, more than 60 victims have given their names to Frank Fitzpatrick. 22 of them gathered together for us for the first time to tell the story. how 9, 10, 11-year-old children were forced into oral sex, anal sex, sometimes several children at once.
There had to be 8 or 9 kids, and he just took turns with us.
How many times did he molest me in my bedroom? I can't say 10, I can't say 15, I can't say 40. As many times, I would think, as he came into my house to eat meals, to socialize, to visit, he would molest me.
There's no one out there that can say when they were alone with Porter, he wasn't trying to get his hands in your pants. Personally, I served a lot of Mass, and it was, you know, every time after Mass getting cornered, trying to get him away from you. Myself, 20 times minimum.
Mine happened when I was in the hospital. I was in an automobile accident, and he came to tell me that, that my uncle died. And that's when he started on me. And that was the night. It was Columbus Day, 1960. I'll never forget it.
They are businessmen now, teachers, adults, but they say it was hard to come forward. And they tell us there are still countless more.
He didn't choose anybody in particular. He chose everybody. This guy destroyed hundreds of children's childhood. He took the child right out of them and ripped it out. I mean, he molested or raped every kid he could get his hands on.
But soon it became clear that Father Porter wasn't the only priest playing a role in their nightmares. John Robitaille had also repressed his memories 30 years when he was driving home recently, and a radio report on Frank Fitzpatrick mentioned Porter's name.
I heard the name Father James Porter, and I just started freaking out.
His classmates have told him that they remember seeing him lying bleeding on the shower floor. He remembers being one of Porter's favorites, raped once a week for nearly 2 years.
I'm standing there behind me, just pushing me against the tile. And, wanting to get out of there and him not letting me.
And John Robitaille says there was someone else at the church, another priest, who looked in and saw him.
He saw me on the floor with Father Porter in the basement of the rectory. And rather than helping me, he turned his back and left. It was like the whole church turned their back on me and did nothing to help me.
It was Father Annunziata?
Yes, it was. And I had to serve Mass for that man afterwards, too. And I could never look him in the eye again.
Father Armando Annunziato, the other young priest at the parish. He was one of the first people Frank Fitzpatrick sought out in his search for Father Porter. But Annunziato told Fitzpatrick he was ignorant of it all, both Porter's whereabouts now, and that he had only vague suspicions about Porter all those years ago. The people in this room say Annunziato was lying. How many of you know firsthand that Father Annunziato knew, that he saw?
Diane, he walked in while I was being raped by Father Porter on a wrestling mat. There was, for a moment, a little bit of hope that this might stop, and the door very slowly shut.
There's no way in the world that the priest in that office, in that rectory, didn't know what was going on.
Peter Calderon says Annunziato also interrupted him with Father Porter.
Porter jumped up and was pulling his pants on, and I can remember laying on the floor that I'm doing something bad. I'm the guy that has my pants down around my ankles with the priest on the other side of the door wanting to know what's going on. And this guy's on the other side of the door knowing what this guy's doing to me, and he doesn't bust the door down. He lets him continue to do what he was doing to me.
Father Annunziato, who presides over this church in Mansfield, Massachusetts, took a leave of absence after the story broke. So we tracked him down to try to get some answers for Father Porter's victims.
Talk to me just for a minute, please.
Oh, thank you.
Father Annunziato, we've talked to some of Father Porter's victims, and they say that you walked in the room and you saw them being abused. They want to know why you didn't protect them. They trusted you.
While Father Annunziato remains silent as he did 30 years ago, the victims tell of lives wrecked by addiction and depression.
I have very little memory of my childhood prior to the spring of 1963. Because I shut down. I'm very, very frightened because I have other dreams and like little glimpses, and I am very, very afraid of where that's going to take me.
I've spent 30 years building walls, losing my religion, losing my ability to make strong relationships, my ability to trust. That's what the story's about. It's about trust. It's about what happens when people betray trust, and I think every one of us here sits here in pain about that.
I attempted suicide 3 times.
And you're sure it was this?
This, there is no question. When the memories came back, I wanted to die more than ever.
And when we come back, some answers to the questions: where were the parents? Where was the church? And where is Father Porter?
Still ahead, a land giveaway that sounds too good to be true. But it is, and you're footing the bill. Also, advertising fiascos. Can they be turned around? But next, parents react to their children's ordeals.
We said to our son, "I'm sorry we weren't there for you to protect you."
As Frank Fitzpatrick tracks down their abuser.
Hello, Mr. Porter? Oh, speaking. Hi, this is Frank Fitzpatrick.
And Primetime finds him too.
Mr. Porter, may I speak with you?
When Primetime continues.
It's time to save big on Goodyear all-season radials for cars and light trucks. Buy 3, get the 4th free. Hurry, save big, and see why we say the best tires in the world and in your neighborhood have Goodyear written all over them.
I try to ignore my sensitive teeth, but they hurt.
Don't ignore your sensitive teeth. Sensodyne helps stop the pain that can make you stop brushing. Could lead even to tooth loss.
Thanks, Sensodyne.
Sensodyne helps stop the pain of sensitive teeth.
Yeah. The very first time I ate Equal. It's such a personal thing. I put it in my cereal, I put it in my iced tea, I put it on half a grapefruit. I think that people don't realize how much sugar they eat. You're more concerned about what you put in your car than what you put in your body. There's sugar, there's the pink stuff, and there's Equal. You have those 3 choices.
Equal has the great taste of NutraSweet and no saccharin.
When I sit down to make a choice, I choose Equal.
Your routine, rugged, grueling, day after day. It's even harder when athlete's foot routinely comes back. But today, there's prescription-strength Lotrimin AF. Many types of fungus can cause athlete's foot. But Lotrimin AF is a broad-spectrum medicine, so it kills them all. No wonder it's the brand most recommended by doctors. So while there's no finish line for you, there is for your athlete's foot. Lotrimin AF.
Dixie wants to remind you, not all paper plates are as strong, soak-proof, and cut-resistant as ours. Dixie paper plates. Dish it out. We can take it.
Tension headaches this bad need a pain reliever this good. New extra strength Darnitol with Ease a Migraine.
Still going. Nothing outlasts the Energizer battery. It keeps going and going.
What happens to your car if it's stolen? Our hidden cameras catch car thieves in action and watch them getting caught in the act.
On the ground! Please, please, on the ground!
2020, Friday.
A world-class field with crisp night air and Bislett. The world record could take a beating. The Dream Mile live Saturday on ABC's Wide World of Sports.
30 years ago, many of the parents of North Attleboro knew nothing about the daily nightmares their children faced. The children were ashamed, afraid to tell them. In a sense, those parents were victims too, not just of one priest, but a church that protected itself from scandal and seemed to show little pity for the children. Sex offenders in the church were rarely given up for prosecution. You'll see now what happened when some parents in that devout Massachusetts community asked their church to stop Father Porter, a man who reportedly even molested children with their parents nearby at home.
He came into my house, into my bedroom, with my parents on the other side of the wall, not even a door blocking the room, just an archway. And he would come in and sit on my bed and take my hand and put my hand down his pants. I couldn't get away from this guy.
That's Peter Calderone. This is his father, Joseph.
My wife insisted I not come this evening on account of my health. And I said, no, dear. I said, I couldn't live with myself. Knowing perhaps I could have done more in the past, after all these years, I said, I will not sit back now.
But Joseph Calderone did try 30 years ago when finally he suspected something was wrong. He tried to get help dealing with Father Porter from that other priest at the parish, Annunziato.
I put it right to him. I believe he's molesting the boys. Well, you know, you people must understand, he's human. I said, Father, you have the wrong. You forgot to put a prefix in there. He's inhuman.
Finally, in 1963, Calderone and a handful of other parents, each thinking they were alone, forced the bishop to move James Porter out of North Attleboro, only to discover now that the church simply placed him in a neighboring parish, Fall River, and then another one, New Bedford, where hundreds more children were available over the next 4 years.
They saved the children of North Attleboro, at least after a few hundred, they saved the children of North Attleboro, and then they damned the children of Fall River and subsequently New Bedford by sending them to them.
And critics say that's exactly the pattern of the Catholic Church over the years. According to one private study, as many as 6% of American priests may have trouble with pedophilia. That's 3,000 priests. Yet, in the past, the Church has simply moved many of them from place to place, paying out huge sums in private court settlements to the victims, hoping, above all, to keep the whole thing hidden. The Church has paid out $400 million in legal fees since 1985, with the prospect of $1 billion.
The settlements I've heard of have been quite large, yes.
The Vatican Embassy refused our request for an interview. Only Father Kenise Connors, a psychologist and member of the National Catholic Conference of Bishops, would talk with us about why the Church moved Porter near children in other parishes all those years ago. What can possibly forgive that decision?
I can't think of anything would forgive it. All I can possibly put forward is the fact that at that time we know so little about the problem. At that time we had no idea of the extent.
But do you have to know about the problem in a sort of sophisticated way to know that this man is dangerous to children?
No, I don't think you need it in any sophisticated way.
Father Annunziato. There at the time, according to at least 3 of the people we talked to, walked in and saw exactly what was happening, shut the door, and did nothing. What should be done to him?
If it is true, then he was in collusion. If it's true, I think you'd have to answer now why he did that then. I don't know. That's very hard to hear.
In the meantime, even though the Church was still shutting every door in his face, Frank Fitzpatrick refused to give up on his search for James Porter. He finally got Porter's middle initial and Porter's father's name, William. Then one day, as he was poring through old newspaper files, he found in a newspaper an obituary. William Porter had died, the article said, leaving behind a son, James, who lived in Oakdale, Minnesota. So Fitzpatrick, private investigator, called information and got the telephone number, and then set up his tape recorder.
The decision to call Porter was really a decision to call his wife, to warn her to watch out and see if their children were being abused by him.
Porter had left the priesthood in 1967 and married. Since 1974, he'd been a house husband and tutoring children at a local church. He also has 4 children of his own.
Hello, can I speak to Mrs. Porter, please?
Hello?
With his heart pounding, Frank Fitzpatrick said he had news about her husband.
But back in 1963, he was at St. Mary's Church in North Attleboro, and I was at the neighboring grammar school. And back at the time, he sexually molested a number of children. Have you heard anything of this before?
No. I don't believe you anyway.
You don't believe me?
No.
Father Porter picked up the telephone and clearly knew the topic.
Hi, this is Frank Fitzpatrick. Why did you do that kind of thing?
Who knows?
Was it done to you as a child or something? Or?
No, that's the thing that was finally figured out. That we don't know.
You have anything to say to me about it? You know,
what can I say?
you're sorry?
Oh, am I? Of course. Very. Very, very, very. That's why it was taken care of.
He said he was sorry.
I had to put that into his head. I had to ask him if he was sorry. I don't think he was sorry at all.
So, several months later, Frank Fitzpatrick dialed that phone number again.
Hello, Mr. Porter?
Oh, speaking.
Hi, this is Frank Fitzpatrick calling again. I'm the one who called you back in February.
Oh, yeah.
Fitzpatrick asked Porter about that trip 30 years ago and the piece of mincemeat pie that had knocked out a little boy.
I don't know if it was alcohol or drugs or what.
Well, if anything, no, it probably... Now, the only thing is I know one thing, and it's still my favorite, is mincemeat. It has a rum in it. It gives a different flavor.
There were a couple of girls that I heard you molested, too.
Not that I know of.
No?
That's not that I...
When did you stop molesting children? When did you stop?
Well, as far as I know now, I mean, for sure, it's way back in the 67.
67. Okay.
1967. That was when additional complaints from the parents in New Bedford finally led to his departure from the priesthood. The church had sent Porter for therapy to this retreat in New Mexico, though no therapy was offered to his victims.
Even though I'm doesn't sound like it in my voice, I do have this extreme anger toward you for what you did to me.
I don't blame you, yes.
And my concern is that this might be another act, and that you might be molesting your own children or their friends or their friends.
No, you could even check. You could even check with my wife, and that is nothing. It would be, geez, it would have come out,
Yeah.
And the family. I mean, it's been absolutely outstanding. I mean, I just thank God every day that what has taken place so far. It doesn't mean I don't have to struggle once in a while. I don't think I don't have recollection. I always got to look back and remember, my God, what happened. I mean, actually, how I got to look back, how fortunate I was that I didn't get creamed. Like, I just think to myself, I mean, it just doesn't know how would I react if anyone, touched my kid. I'd be so damn pissed.
At this point, Mrs. Porter picked up the telephone and said her husband had confirmed what Fitzpatrick had said.
Yes, he told me all about it after his call.
Okay. Okay, that's all I really wanted to talk to you.
Quite a shock.
Excuse me, yeah, it is quite a shock, I imagine, yeah. So, I'm just hoping that he's cured of that, that's all.
Well, there's no signs or anything.
No signs of any problems now?
We say the family rosary every day, okay?
Okay.
I don't know if that still means anything to you or not. I hope it does.
Did your wife discuss it?
I just tell him I got a friend I want remembered, okay? That will include you in it, but hoping that, like with me, none of us can get through anything without the grace of God. I know that.
After that phone call, James Porter admitted to a television reporter that he had probably molested 50 to 100 children. His victims scoff, saying that's just a fraction of the real number. And their constant fear is it didn't stop when he said it did.
You know, he said in the tape that nothing has happened, that leaving the priesthood was a kind of cure for him. Some people have
If you talk to the experts around pedophilia, it is a non-curable disease.
If you get that apology, will that give you all peace?
No.
He's got to be put away. In jail. Treatment in jail. That's the time.
Diane, as far as I'm concerned, Porter committed murder. He psychologically murdered every one of us when we were 10, 11, 12 years old.
So the former children of St. Mary's School are determined to get action, even though so far every road has been a dead end. They turned to the Rhode Island district attorney, but just today he cited technicalities in the law and said he won't be doing anything. And the church?
Well, the church must always be the healing agent. I mean, the law is there to enforce the law, and we should never impede that. But
Do you understand? These people say, excuse me, but they say they can't be healed until their church is fighting for them.
And I think we are. I think we are beginning to.
And yet, when Fitzpatrick first went public, Cardinal Bernard Law of Boston responded by attacking the messengers, the media.
By all means, let's call down God's power on the media.
So if the church wouldn't do it, we decided to go to Minnesota to see if we could get James Porter to say something to the victims he left behind.
Mr. Porter, may I talk with you?
Kick it for your ass.
Mr. Porter, may I speak with you on behalf of the people of Massachusetts? The young people there.
Get the police.
I'll be right back, Mr. Porter. You don't have to call the police. We just want to know if there's anything you want to say.
Get the cops. The cops.
Porter slammed our cameraman and our camera so hard, the camera shut down. It took 2 men to pull him off us.
He's not dealing with a helpless 12-year-old now. He's dealing with a very angry 43-year-old. And I'm not going to stop until that man is prosecuted, until he is dealt with, and until all the other victims who he victimized get help, come forward, and can face it.
As of now, more than 60 people linked by terror, memory, and love. All because of one man.
I've been alone for 32 years until I saw Frank on television. And I've got a family now. But up until that time, I thought I was alone. I owe, I don't know how much to Frank, because without his efforts, I wouldn't be able to deal with my pain right now.
Your hero?
He's my hero.
You're my hero now, too.
He's a very, very brave man. And,
So are you.
I'm getting there.
You're there.
As we said, the Rhode Island District Attorney says he will not prosecute. Massachusetts officials are undecided. There are questions about statute of limitations. As for the church, 2 weeks ago, the National Conference of Catholic Bishops issued guidelines urging churches to identify pedophiles, turn them over to the authorities, and help the victims. But it's just a recommendation. It's not binding. And what about Father Porter in Minnesota? Well, the Boston Globe ran an article today which confirmed something that we had heard. William Hutton, an officer in the police department in Oakdale, Minnesota, Porter's community, said he has now heard from 3 people raising questions. They say about 10 years ago, Porter abused them as youngsters in the Midwest. But all 3 cases would exceed the 7-year statute of limitations.
Coming up, some of America's most stunning land is practically being given away.
Is it a ripoff? Can you imagine buying an acre of federal land for about what a cup of coffee and a piece of pie would cost you at a roadside stand?
Tonight, why Congress has been so reluctant to stop the sale of the century when Primetime continues after this from our ABC station.
Saturday was a necessary force of police brutality.
This death is on us. I hold you responsible for it, Scally. They're guilty. I'll nail them to the cross myself. Guys are right. You ain't one of us anymore.
The Commish, Saturday.
Good evening with a Channel 5 update. I'm Gail Nye. Coming up at 10, central Iowa hammered by storms overnight and into the morning. Rain, hail, and strong winds toppling trees and power lines. Iowa Power says some 30,000 people didn't have power at the peak of the storm. We'll tell you what else we're in store for. A decision is made on the custody of Jonathan Waller. He's the little boy who was so badly beaten he can't walk or talk now. And Our Town focuses on Winterset tonight. We'll show you where John Wayne's True Grit was born. Hope to see you at 10.
One way to fun. Come on, everyone. Watch it.
Oh, I wish I had a chance to do that shot again. I love playing golf except for the traps. Life is a lot like this game. We can find ourselves in a trap with too many deadlines and too little time. There's no way out except with God. God loves you and is willing to give you another chance. So go ahead. Give today your best shot, and if you happen to find yourself in a trap, remember, you always have a second chance with God.
From your friends at First Assembly of God on Merle Hay Road.
You're watching Channel 5.
Now for some new developments in the tailhook sexual harassment story you saw last week on our broadcast. Last Thursday, we talked to some of the 26 women who said they had been sexually assaulted when they were shoved through a gauntlet at a 1991 convention of Navy aviators.
They started putting their hands up my dress and pulling at my pantyhose and pulling at my dress.
The day after our broadcast, Navy Secretary Lawrence Garrett resigned, saying he accepted full responsibility for the handling of the scandal. And the Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Frank Kelso, told us the Navy would reform.
The important part to me is to make sure that we never have something like this happen again.
But today, a new incident came to light. It seems that just 2 weeks ago, at a large party at the Miramar Naval Air Station's Officers Club, a banner was displayed inviting Congresswoman Patricia Schroeder to perform a highly obscene sexual act.
Admiral Kelso was over in my office and very kind and very chagrined about the whole thing.
Not only did Admiral Kelso apologize to Schroeder, 2 senior officers at the party have been relieved of command, and other officers are being investigated. Admiral Edwin Kahn, the Naval Air Commander in the Pacific, reacted this way.
All of us are humiliated, disgusted, frustrated.
And Acting Secretary of the Navy Dan Howard says enough is enough.
And we had a group of idiots who didn't care anything about the Navy or the future of the Navy who went out and had a party and misbehaved. We're going to make you understand what the rules are, and if you break the rules, you're gone. We don't need you.
Primetime continues in a moment.
Why get an inferior shave when you could have the best? Why choose ordinary lubrication when you could have the richest? Why settle for average protection against razor irritation when you could have the most advanced, giving you the closest shave with less irritation? Edge Gel. Ultimate closeness. Ultimate comfort. That's the Edge.
Sears 4th of July paint sale means huge savings on lots of brands. Like Weather Beater Exterior Flat, only $12.99. Easy Living Interior Satin, just $13.99. But hurry, sale ends Saturday at Sears.
Its conquests are legend. Germ killer, plaque slayer. Now Listerine faces its greatest challenge. The ever-present threat of the gum disease, gingivitis. Gingivitis, you have met your match. Listerine antiseptic. It says what it does what it says.
Now you don't need a prescription to get prescription-strength medicine for itches and rashes. Introducing new Maximum Strength Cord-Aid. Now with twice the healing medicine. New Maximum Strength Cord-Aid. Prescription strength without a prescription.
The diamond is a symbol of enduring quality. The same can be said for the Mitsubishi Diamante, an exquisite blend of luxury and performance. And for those who aspire to these special qualities, Mitsubishi offers these special leasing terms. Just $299 a month for 36 months with no down payment. The Diamante lease from Mitsubishi. The word is getting around. Tomorrow, strike up the band in the spirit of America.
Travel with us across the nation for a joyous celebration of independence, from the festivities in New York Harbor and perhaps your own neighborhood.
Let the fireworks begin tomorrow on Good Morning America.
You've been dreading this reunion for weeks, and now I'm not dreading it.
Sparks fly for an old flame.
Beverly.
Drew.
Libby.
I can't believe this is happening.
I wasn't sure I should come.
Life goes on Sunday.
Primetime continues. Now from Washington, Sam Donaldson.
Who says you can't get rich quick? We know where you can buy land for $2.50 an acre, then turn around the next day and sell it for, well, thousands of dollars an acre. It's all quite legal. The sucker who sells so cheaply is, you guessed it, Uncle Sam. The people losing money are, you guessed it, the taxpayers. And it will not surprise you to hear that the special interests who benefit from this and are fighting reform defend it as the American way. As we first discovered 2 years ago, here's how it works. Oceanfront property in the Oregon Dunes, rocky hills overlooking Phoenix, a winding river in the hills of New Mexico. Yours for just $2.50 an acre, courtesy of the federal government.
Is it a ripoff? Can you imagine buying an acre of federal land for about what a cup of coffee and a piece of pie would cost you at a roadside stand?
The year is 1872. Ulysses Grant is in the White House. Jesse James is robbing trains in Missouri. Young men are pushing west, hoping to hit pay dirt. Congress passes a new finders-keepers mining law, giving anyone the right to stake claim to federal land, provided they prove there are valuable minerals to be mined. After putting $500 worth of labor into the claim, the land can be bought outright. The idea of the law was to open up the West, to encourage the development of its mineral resources. Back then, no one was worried about the environment or the scenery. There was so much land and so few people. Now, of course, times have changed, but the law is still on the books. And today, you can still purchase federal land for the 1872 price of $2.50 an acre.
It's the last chance left to get that kind of federal land for that kind of price.
John Leshy, a law professor at Arizona State University and author of a history of the 1872 mining law, cites a long list of outrages. We spoke with him at an exclusive resort with an unusual history just 12 miles from downtown Phoenix.
This was originally a mining claim. This was all federal land at one time, as practically all the West was, and a prospector came out here in the early 1950s and filed an application under this law for title to the land. And after 15 years of litigation with the government caved in and gave him title to 60 acres of land here.
How much did it cost him?
It cost him about $170.
And he then did what with it?
And then he sold it to the developer that built this development. And the land, a couple of years ago, just the land itself was valued at a little over $6 million.
Frank Maluzzo, the man who staked the original claim near Phoenix, declined to speak with us. Leshy says Maluzzo has plans to buy more land for $2.50 an acre right next door to the resort.
And what will he do with that? Well, one can only presume that its highest and best use is probably not mining, but probably something connected with this resort.
But look how close we are to downtown Phoenix. You mean you can mine minerals right here?
Well, the mining law says you don't have to mine minerals. All you got to do is show there's some kind of mineral there to get title. And after you get title, you can do anything with the land you want to.
The Arizona resort is but one example. According to a congressional study of 20 recent public land sales under the 1872 law, the U.S. government sold property estimated to be worth as much as $48 million for just 1/100th of 1% of that price, a mere $4,500. The federal agencies charged with overseeing the land are frustrated by the law, which is sometimes abused by people who have no intention of mining commercially. Dean Swickert of the Federal Bureau of Land Management says of the 10,000 mining claims in his area in Northern California, only 10 mines are in actual commercial operation. All sorts of surprises unconnected to mining turn up on public land, such as this settlement Dean Swickert took us to see on a claim site outside Yosemite National Park. Helmut Lau says he's milling gold, but Swickert can't see the minerals for the trash.
This resource isn't a resource. This is garbage.
This is not.
This is junk.
That's only in your eyes because you're not creative with your hands.
I am not the creator, but this isn't
the creator is in me, and he's in you too.
But this isn't necessary for mining. This isn't necessary.
It is very necessary for the way I mine, and I have the right as an individual to mine in a way that is feasible and possible and feels good. And when you see me pouring my love energy into the land, like I did after we take a little walk, you know.
I don't question your love energy. I want to see energy in extracting minerals from the earth.
Okay.
Why, you may ask, if this abuse is so clear, has there been no change in the law in 118 years? Well, for starters, Congress has amended this law several times, but only in minor ways. There's been no fundamental change, because on the one hand, hardly anyone has ever heard of this law, so there's no public pressure to do anything about it. But on the other hand, powerful moneyed interests have worked hard to keep Congress at bay.
The 1872 mining law is one of the cornerstones of this entire economy. And without it, today, America would probably be a third-rate nation.
Jack Kniebel, president of the American Mining Congress, is one of the law's chief defenders. So doesn't that mean you can get land for nothing?
You pay nothing for the land. You pay very dearly for the mineral. You pay the hourly wages, you pay the cost of plant and
equipment.
That's
cost of business, the doing business.
Well, certainly
Everyone
it is,
pays
but
the
you
cost
just
of
said
doing
nothing,
business.
and it's certainly more than nothing.
And to be competitive, you ought not to have to pay anything for the land.
Well, let's just say that that's how this nation has developed.
Listen, the American dream doesn't require the United States to be a sap, which they are in this case.
Senator Dale Bumpers, Democrat of Arkansas, has introduced a bill to reform the 1872 law, but doesn't expect those cashing in to give in quietly.
The American Mining Congress has a lot of clout here. Western senators, very protective of the mining industry. And a lot of them, frankly, they'll tell you privately that they know it's outrageous and they wish me well, but they can't support it.
Even more outrageous than the land giveaway, some people say, is the environmental abuse that can take place under the 1872 law, which is so old it has no environmental restrictions. As a result, miners have left behind scarred landscapes, polluted streams, and barren forests across the West.
We documented some $14 billion that this industry has spent since the 70s to clean up its past omissions and commissions.
Well, they must be looking at the world through gold-colored glasses, because that's not the picture that we see. No one will defend the picture of the industry's past with a straight face.
Phil Hocker runs the Mineral Policy Center, an organization campaigning to reform the 1872 law. A recent study, Hocker says, found unreclaimed mining activity has scarred more than 420,000 acres in 11 western states, a figure he believes could actually be twice as large. This is the Santa Fe National Forest in northern New Mexico. Beautiful scenery. But look closely and you'll see something else. Mining operations like this one. Critics say this is highly undesirable. But under the 1872 law, an operation like this is virtually unstoppable. At stake is a 1,700-acre claim in the Santa Fe National Forest, filed by businessman Richard Cook, who is now mining a small portion of it.
This is a unique product and a unique location.
It's a pumice mine. The minerals from this mine are used to make stonewashed jeans.
Michael Stewart, founder of Project Lighthawk, an environmental group, worries Cook will spoil the landscape irrevocably.
At the moment, it's a very small area, but you fear it may get larger? This entire forest that you're looking at here will be gone. He can do anything he wants to it. He can clear all the trees, mine, and he doesn't even have to reclaim the land. He can just leave it like you see it right there, bare, just bare rock.
That's not true. When we finish with this area, it'll be prettier than it is today.
Do you think this law, which was put on the books in 1872, ought to still be there?
Oh, I think that there's a need for that law.
Yeah, but I'll bet you if you buy this land for $2.50, and I come to you the next day and offer you $3 an acre, you'll laugh at me.
That's correct.
Because you know it's more valuable than that.
Absolutely.
Well, then how is this fair to the taxpayers?
It is not just the $2.50. It is all the money we've spent getting to this point.
So, under the 1872 law, the land is cheap, environmental concerns are not a priority, but there's one more thing, and it may be the reason the mining industry is fighting so hard to keep things the way they are. The minerals are free. The 1872 law allows miners to haul off minerals from public lands without paying a penny to the government in royalties. Oil companies pay for the oil they pump on public lands, but mining companies pay nothing.
Off of public lands in Nevada alone, over the next 5 years, more than $10 billion worth of gold is going to be removed, and you and I will not get a penny for that.
These mining companies will pay a handsome royalty to somebody to mine their lands, if private lands, but swear they're going broke if you charge them a royalty on federal lands. That's how bizarre it is.
But while some say the 1872 law is ready for the museum, the incentives to preserve it may be too compelling. In Washington, 118-year-old laws die hard.
You know, when I was looking for co-sponsors on my bill, I asked one senator, I told him about all these bizarre things and about how you could actually buy federal lands for $2.50 an acre. He was incredulous. But when I asked him to co-sponsor, he said, oh, hell no, I'm going to Nevada to stake me some claims.
That was 2 years ago, and sure enough, that year reform failed. But Senator Bumpers and his allies are back. Last week, the House Interior Committee passed a strong reform bill, which is making its way through Congress. With the public more aware of how the 1872 law works, perhaps this year things will be different.
In a moment, she didn't eat much meat.
People have a primal, instinctive craving for hamburgers.
He had a drinking problem.
Is that a lime?
No, it's a drink. And he won't be going to Barcelona.
Because Reebok really wants me to win in Barcelona.
Commercial disasters when Primetime continues.
10 years. I still get butterflies.
Funny, she doesn't look married. I bet she cries or bites her lip.
Hello, stranger.
I'm hardly a stranger.
Well, you are late.
I know. You shouldn't have waited 10 years for this. Happy anniversary.
The Diamond Anniversary Band. Tell her you'd marry her all over again.
You sure can pick an appetizer.
What would happen if Kraft took the great taste of ranch some Parmesan and Romano cheese, a touch of garlic, and mixed it all together? We call it New Kraft Caesar Ranch. You'll call it delicious. New Caesar Ranch, only from Kraft, America's house dressing.
Kmart's got Glidden paint on sale. There's the house guard. So what color did you decide on? White. I'm getting cover perfect for you.
Do I really have to paint my room?
Only if you want to live there. Custom tinting at no extra charge, and you pick white. It's my house. I'm your neighbor. I have to look at it. You want to pick the color? You help me paint. White's a classic.
Let's contribute to the Star-Spangled Banner Monument.
Red, white, and blue. Nice colors.
Your breakfast, sir. This new Kellogg's Frosted Bran is quite sensible. Crispy flakes with whole wheat and bran, slightly frosted for a taste that's delicious. I love it. I love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. I love it. And new Kellogg's Frosted Bran has less sugar than you'd imagine, but the taste, it's out of...
We've got to stop serving this. New Kellogg's Frosted Bran, wildly delicious, sensibly good.
Next, bad weather ripped through Iowa, toppling trees and sizzling power lines. We'll tell you what else is on the way.
The storms brought a mixed blessing to Iowa farmers today. Some rain, some damage.
And we'll saddle up with the Dukes for a tour of Winterset. That's our town tonight.
Channel 5 News is next.
Saturday, ABC in Concert presents a special 4th of July appearance by John Mellencamp from his hometown Indianapolis, the heartland of America. Ain't That America, a July 4th celebration with John Mellencamp, late night Saturday.
Monday, honor the best in the business. Bob Saget hosts a tribute to this year's hottest athletes. The Jim Thorpe Pro Sports Awards, Monday.
And finally tonight, you know us too well to think we could resist the sad saga of Dan and Dave. As everybody's read by now, Reebok built an entire campaign on these two athletes and their upcoming Olympic rivalry until, of course, Dan ceased to be upcoming and failed to qualify for the Olympics. It's the kind of thing that can crush an athlete's spirit and give an advertising executive ulcers. So we asked Judd Rose to find out, when it all comes crashing down, what happens on Madison Avenue.
This summer, they'll battle it out in Barcelona for the title of world's greatest athlete.
Well, like the ads say, life is short, not to mention full of surprises.
Situation. This is it. He's not on the team if he doesn't make this height, and he knows it.
Last weekend, when Dan O'Brien blew his big chance, it was a heartbreak for him and a heart attack for Reebok, which had already sunk $20 million into its ads promoting a Dan and Dave showdown at the Olympics.
To be settled in Barcelona.
He pays your money and he takes your chances. These are $1 million shoes, but they're placed on feet of clay.
There's no insurance for this sort of thing, even though it happens more than you might think.
I mean, I know people who don't eat burgers, but I'm not sure I trust them.
A few years back, while this ad was on TV, Sybil Shepherd was quoted in an interview saying she actually didn't eat much red meat. So long, Sybil. Well done. Meanwhile, her moonlighting pal Bruce Willis was paid $5 to $7 million to promote a wine cooler. But the fun stopped when it became public knowledge that Willis had a drinking problem. He was quietly dropped. Pepsi popped for $5 million to have Madonna sing its praises. But her MTV video of the same song used in the ad offended many Christian viewers. They complained to Pepsi. The multi-million-dollar commercial ran once.
Hey, Diet Pepsi the champion, too.
For sheer embarrassment, Mike Tyson beats everyone. Pepsi paid him $3.5 million for ads like this one with then-wife Robin Givens. But then Mrs. Tyson accused Iron Mike of hitting her.
He cannot control his temper, and that's frightening.
There's a very technical, arcane advertising term for what Pepsi did by signing Mike Tyson, and that term is completely moronic.
To avoid these headaches, many advertisers now insist on deals that give them an out if their celebrity endorser misbehaves. And then there are those who snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. Bo Jackson continues to be a big star for Nike long after his hip problems cut short his sports career.
This is ridiculous. I'm an athlete, not an actor. Let me out of this thing.
I got rehab to do.
So what now for Dan and Dave?
Well, the campaign so far has been like a great summer book. And all of a sudden, 2/3 of the way through the book, you've come across an incredible twist to the plot. You now can't wait to get to the final chapter of that book.
In plain English, Reebok is trying to salvage things. Last night, there was a new Dan and Dave commercial that turned Dan's agony into the thrill of defeat.
This was not a tragedy. This was an unmitigated bonanza. That's what it was. I mean, there hasn't been such a non-tragedy since Jed Clampett missed the possum.
With $20 million on the line, Reebok's hoping that despite Dan's bad luck, you'll still want to be in his shoes.
We'll check in with Ted Koppel now for a preview of tonight's Nightline. Ted?
Diane, later on Nightline, we'll talk face-to-face with Vice President Dan Quayle. He's been praised by the right, ridiculed by critics, but he's not backing down. Tonight, the Bush campaign's road warrior, Vice President Quayle. Diane?
That's Nightline. Don't forget 2020 right here tomorrow night. I'm Diane Sawyer in New York. Good night to you. Good night, Sam.
Good night, Diane. I'm Sam Donaldson in Washington. Join us again next Thursday night for another edition of Primetime Live.
For a transcript, please send $5 to Journal Graphics, 1535 Grant Street, Denver, Colorado, 80203. Primetime is a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
America's watching ABC.
A simple comparison between the Ford Taurus and the Honda Accord. Ford Taurus comes with a driver's side airbag. So does the Honda Accord. Ford Taurus is also available with a passenger side airbag. As for Honda, well, Honda will eventually copy this great idea. But can you afford to wait? Think Ford first for safety. See your Ford dealer today and prepare to be impressed.
Montgomery Ward has 3 great ways to save this 4th of July weekend. 1, take an extra 10% off, even on sale items. Choose from great brand names like Maytag, GE, Sony, and more. 2, or choose 0% interest with no payments until October. 3, save 40 to 65% off already.